All right, and just to mention, you also get to drive a show with me. You can call in, ask your questions or share your contribution. Also, you can cross over to a Twitter handle, AM Live NTV is a Twitter handle, and AM Live NTV is a profile name on Facebook, and 20505 is our SMS portal. Allow me now to introduce my guests this morning. Of course, also we are awaiting for Hassan Olenadu, who is a Deputy Secretary General of SUPKEM. He's on his way, caught up in traffic. But we have with us this morning Ibrahim Lethome, who is a lawyer and also a Muslim scholar. And we have Dr. Mustafa Ali, who is an expert on conflict transformation. And we train our focus on the holy month of Ramadan. Good morning.
Good morning.
And thank you for joining us on Standing on Guard here on AM Live.
Thank you.
Yes, and let's just begin with what we mentioned. Of course, this is a holy month for the Muslim brothers.
Yeah.
And we can see people taking advantage, of course, of Ramadan to perpetrate their evil.
Yeah.
We wonder, what is the motivation behind this? Looking at the spate of violence and the sleeper cells of Al-Shabaab in the country, what they've perpetrated during this month, we can know of a trio attack of, as I mentioned earlier, of Tunisia. We have also Kuwait, and also the botched one in France, where the chemical canisters didn't actually blow up. I think that was a good fortune that it didn't really blow up. Are we seeing an element that is driven by religion, which is, you know, the holy month of Ramadan? Let's start with you, Bana Ibrahim.
Yeah, thank you, Dival. As you rightly said, this is a holy month of Ramadan. And I think for every Muslim it is very clear. We need to ask ourselves, the month of Ramadan, what is the purpose of Ramadan? Whereby you have your lawful food, your lawful drink, your lawful spouse, but out of fear and out of obedience to Allah, your creator, you keep away from them. We are told very clearly in the Quran, because we don't need to look at people and decide what Ramadan is, but we look at the Holy Book and what it says. It says you're supposed to attain piety. And piety means doing what God loves and keeping away from what God does not love. So all this is about misconception and misuse of religion. And we have seen it not only in Ramadan, even outside Ramadan. Yes, we know there are people who have created that impression that now they want to use the month of Ramadan. But if you look at the month of Ramadan and what we are supposed to achieve in the month of Ramadan, then the evil deeds of these people, you can see that there is no link between them at all. This is a pure misuse of religion, abuse of religious teachings, because actually in the month of Ramadan, even taking from the Prophet himself, may peace be upon him, who is supposed to be our model to copy and exemplify, is that his relationship with fellow human beings was very good. And when it came, the month of Ramadan came, it was even better. Killing innocent people cannot be said to be an act of showing piety or even God-fearing. So it's purely misuse of religion, misconception, and I think every Muslim should come out and condemn this act and misuse of the month and abuse of the month of Ramadan. When you're supposed to show sympathy, you're supposed to be kind. We are always supposed to be kind, but in the month of Ramadan, you're even supposed to be even more kinder, because you're denying it's a month of sacrifice. I'm leaving my food, I'm leaving my drink, I'm leaving other things that give comfort to me out of fear of God. I'm supposed to feel for the poor, I'm supposed to feel for the people who are suffering, the sick and the rest. It's a training for me. Actually, we are supposed to get out of this month better Muslims, not better just in our relationship with God, but better in our relationship with fellow Muslims, with family, fellow human beings, and Dibal, even with other creatures like even animals and the environment. This is purely what Ramadan is about.
But, you know, it's a bit consternating that we have a very seasoned Islamic scholars like you, and also people within, maybe, if we take an example of Al-Shabaab or also Islamic State, who are also very seasoned scholars of Islam. Yeah, they have degrees behind their names. But the question is, why are they particularly intent on Ramadan? Because if we see, ISIS, I should say, declared the caliphate on the first day of Ramadan last year. If we also hark back into history, in 2007, we have Al-Qaeda in Iraq announcing the outset of Ramadan that it was forming special battalions of martyrdom seekers that will pound bastions of crusaders and their renegade tails, right? And we wonder why. Looking at what we have also on the front cover of the Star this morning, I don't have it with the
MRC and
yeah, they've gone
NIS,
quiet
saying,
for quite a while, and
yep.
we wondered where did they dissipate to. But now they're resurfacing, and thanks to the intelligence service organ here of this country, we have them now. The plans will be foiled that they are planning to attack Obama's visit during this time. How providential is it that yes, it is happening during Ramadan? The visit is coming during the holy month of Ramadan.
Dibal, thank you for that question. And let me just, good morning, and let me just pick it up from where Sheikh Lethome had left. The holy month of Ramadan, if you go back to the calendar of Islam, you'll find a number of battles that were actually fought during the holy month of Ramadan, including Battle of Badr, which was fought on the 17th of Ramadan. And just picking up from the what Sheikh said about misuse of religion, is that these militant groups are simply just extending what they have been doing, and they sometimes do this so well, into the holy month of Ramadan, to misuse the holy month of Ramadan, claiming that some of those battles that were fought during the month of Ramadan, and if they do the same, it's a direct ticket to heaven. Obviously, that's why there's so much, there's so many attacks during the month of Ramadan. And it is the misuse of religion. But let me move to the other side in the context of conflict. The legitimation of these groups and the way we actually use words to describe these groups. And we end up unwittingly, unintentionally legitimizing groups like Daesh, that is Dawlat al-Islamiyya fi Iraq wa Sham. They call themselves the Islamic State. It's obviously not an Islamic state. Or groups like Al-Shabaab, we end up calling them jihadists. When we do that, jihad, and Sheikh will explain, I'm sure, in this program, is simply the struggle on the path of God to do good. And during the month of Ramadan, we are supposed to increase our actions that are jihadist. Me fasting, Sheikh fasting, taking care of his family, appearing on this program to explain what jihad is, what is the problem, is part of the jihad. And so when we use words like jihad, or we term these groups like Al-Shabaab is jihadist, we end up actually legitimizing their actions. We end up transforming murderers into martyrs, because jihad is a good word, the struggle towards the path, or to be on the path of God, to do good. And so we need to delegitimize these groups. That's one thing we need to do. And we need to point out exactly what it is that they are doing. They are misusing religion. They are killers. They are murderers.
All right, allow us to take a short break, because I think that's a good point you're raising, and I think also Sheikh has been here before really talking about the way jihadist is a misnomer. Even actually in America, it has been banned. They don't use jihadism anymore. But we want clarification. Then where do we actually draw? Because it's a very thin line when we try as maybe media to portray what is happening on the ground and what sort of names we should use. Right? Is it militants? Is it Al-Shabaab? Are we giving them veracity, you know, when they see, yes, we're actually gaining notoriety when we talk about the militants have attacked, and they like hearing, yes, they've been acknowledged. Yeah, we'll answer that on the other side of the break. Remember, you're watching Standing on Guard, and of course, we are turning our focus today on the holy month of Ramadan. Are terrorists taking advantage of this month to perpetrate their evil? Is it the safe haven for terrorists? Join us also on the other side of a break with your calls, questions, or your contributions on our social media platform. Our numbers also will be up momentarily. Don't go away. Welcome back. You are watching Standing on Guard here on Live, keeping an eye on the enemy. We talk about matters security every Wednesday, Homeland Security. Take a look on what is actually on the front cover of the Star this morning. Second story there is all about MRC rebranding, and they're planning or an attack in Coast Region. That is according to an intelligence there from NYS. And the question that we're asking this morning is all about Ramadan and the way we have terror sleeper cells in the country who are taking advantage of this particular month? Are they motivated by religion? Are there verses in the Holy Quran that are taken out of context to perpetrate this evil, right? And how do we as media also cover these, and what terminologies or names do we give them? Because they gain notoriety, according to our experts here. They're telling us that we should not be calling them jihadists, we should not be calling them Islamists. Yeah. What do we call them then? We want to get also your view. Hit us on Twitter. AM Live NTV is a Twitter handle. AM Live NTV is a profile name on Facebook, and 20505 our SMS portal. Also, our numbers will be up momentarily for you to call in. So what do we call them? Yeah, because yes, I know also I've been advised by, our editors, you shouldn't use Al-Shabaab, you shouldn't give them those labels, because they're gaining currency and they're happy.
And they're being legitimized.
And they're being legitimized.
That's right.
But it's a very thin line between giving terrorists the attention they thrive and countering them. So what do we do?
You see, talking about the terminology, the words that we should use to refer to them, definitely nobody, Dibal, calls themselves, we are terrorists. They would want to call themselves to be referred to in a name that will give them legitimacy and also sympathy from other Muslims. The moment you mention the word jihad, even I, Dibal, want to identify with that. When you talk about jihadist, I, in my own understanding, and I believe is the correct understanding, I am a jihadist. When you talk about Islamist, if you are referring to a person who observes the fundamentals of the religion, I am an Islamist. For them, Dibal, it's pure. Their activity, killing innocent people without justification. What do you call it? Crime. For me, call them criminals. If you want an Arabic word, I'll say mujrimin. These are people who are terrorizing people, who are committing crime, and they should be referred to that. If the moment you call them jihadists, the word jihad, Dibal, is in the Quran. Several times it's been referred to in the Quran. When the Prophet, may peace be upon him, conquered Makkah, he was sent away from Makkah. Then he came back, bloodless. He came back and conquered Makkah. And he told them, in fact, as they were coming back in, he would tell his soldiers, we've come from the minor jihad, which is the battlefield. We are now going to the greater jihad, fighting your nafs. As a human being, there are those temptations.
Yes.
When you're fighting your temptations, you're told that is the biggest jihad. And there are no apologies to make here. Under certain conditions, just like in the contemporary world we are living today, we have laws during a time of war. We have laws that have to be followed during the time of peace.
Yes.
So we have laws, a set of laws that are supposed to be followed strictly during the time of war in Islam. There is also during the time of peace, and how to deal with people who are unarmed, people who are peaceful, people who are innocent. So we move away from the word jihadist, because I am a jihadist myself, but in the correct way.
All right.
That includes making sure I follow the teachings of Islam. I deal with other human beings, whether Muslims or non-Muslims, and even animals, the way God wants me to deal with them. That is jihad. When I wake up in the morning, to make sure I put food on the table for my children, but in the rightful way, that is jihad. When right now here, according to my interpretation, and I believe this is the correct interpretation, what I'm doing right now, trying to correct misconception about Islam, that is jihad. You talked about scholars, because you told me we have scholars like you, or even better than you, who are advising these people. Number one, who is a scholar in Islam? Anybody could come up and claim that he's a scholar. Unfortunately, and I want to say this very candidly, unlike in Christianity, for a person to be a clergy, there is a process they have to go through and be ordained. In Islam, it is by virtue of the knowledge of the religion that you have and the respect you command. And the media, I dare say, and he's a media person, he's also a media expert, sometimes out of people who are self-proclaimed scholars, we make scholars. We've had people in this country who we know very well. The only training they've ever had in this country is maybe being a soldier in a foreign country. But the media put them out there as scholars. When they wanted the view of Muslims, they would go and interview these people. So some of these people are proclaimed scholars. Some of them have been made by the media or other people. So not everybody claiming to be a scholar is a scholar. Not everybody claiming to speak for Islam actually is speaking for the religion. And we should judge Islam not by the utterances or the actions of people claiming to be speaking for the religion.
All right. Now we have a very huge battle of trying to, not, as we've mentioned here before, fight terrorism not with the military operations, but now with the soft powers, which include also de-radicalization, you know, because some of these things that we're seeing here are perpetrated by maybe a misconstrued view of the Quran, as you mentioned. But what is the honors then of a SUPKEM, yeah, and other Muslim organizations in the country to make sure that also your clergy, they're going through the rigors of a system so that we have Muslim scholars like you and a lawyer who know that maybe what media have portrayed some other clergies in the mosques, they're preaching radical elements from the Quran out of context. What are you doing as a body to try and tame these people before even media goes for these people? Because we've had them, and we've known and we've had some of the utterances that are tripping off their tongue. I mean, they're very inflammatory, if you may agree with me. Isn't that true?
It is very true. And well, it is recorded. We see it every day, actually. And now not so much on the media, but online. Your question is very valid, and it's a legitimate question that needs to be answered. What is the Muslim community and the mainstream leadership in this country doing about these issues? You know, people waking up in the morning and proclaiming themselves as religious clerics, as Muslim scholars. I can't wake up in the morning today and say, oh, now I'm a cleric and I will be sitting together with Lethome and, you know, as an Islamic scholar. I can be a Muslim scholar, but not an Islamic scholar. He's both a Muslim scholar and an Islamic scholar. I think that's a legitimate question that we need to ask the Muslim organizations in this country. But just moving back slightly to picking up from where Sheikh Lethome talked about, you know, a text is as moral as its reader. So if one takes a text from the Quran that talks about killing each other and just looks at that one line out of context, that person, if that person is a moral person, then why is this? We'll find out more and maybe we'll get that this is out of context. If you take the Torah or the Bible and just read one line and paragraphs, and there are many, there will be many paragraphs or lines of killing or an eye for an eye. And so if that person is not moral, then you know you will understand how that person is going to think and actually do. And we normally say in the kind of work that we do, the text is as moral as its reader. And text without context is always a pretext. And this is why most of these guys are getting this wrong, because they don't get the context. Now, when we're talking about de-radicalization, counter-radicalization, and prevention of violent extremism, and the failure, not the total failure, the partial failure of the military approaches to actually deal with this problem conclusively. And we've said again and again that what the military approach has done is to disperse the mujrimin that the Sheikh was talking about in Arabic, the terrorists, the militants. It just dispersed them. It did not defeat them. And therefore now what we have to do is to launch a counter-ideological, offensive if you like, or a process that is going to address these issues in the minds of these mujrimin who have clearly been taken out of the fold or have been brainwashed and are now doing whatever they are doing.
Yeah,
and this is why there is a program we've started. It's called BRAVE, Building Resilience Against Violent Extremism. The Muslims in this country have started that program, and I'm glad that it's been on NTV as well. What we are saying is that we need, first of all, to delegitimize the misuse of religion. We need to delegitimize these mujrimin, these people who are misusing Islam, and then we have to also invite them to the table so that we can speak. I want to convince them that what they are doing is wrong. And I also want them to convince me, what is this that they are doing? Let them convince me to join them. I want to give them that opportunity. I know they will never convince me, but I want to give them that opportunity to convince me that what they're doing is correct. But I want them also to give me an opportunity, and the sheikh here, to convince them that what they're doing is wrong and to join us in the proper jihad, and that is building peaceful communities. And that's what Brave is about.
All right. And of course, also, we know of the amnesty, some of the strategies that the government has been using, which has been fairly successful. We have also some of our militants who've actually come to the fore and said, yes, I've been in the terror sleeper cells and I've come to the fore right now. I want to change my life. But this is falling squarely on the arms now of the Muslim community, because we know it's a battle of ideology right now, right? And I know the government doesn't have maybe the mechanism and the machinery, because all along they've said we've been missing the point. We've actually been using the wrong strategy. We realize it's not that way. We want to de-radicalize our young ones who actually have this very extremist view of the Quran. So I want to know, yes, as you've mentioned before and you've talked about here, it is now within the honors of the Muslim community. What are you doing? What are you doing? Have you been waiting for the de-radicalization program for the government? Has the government approached you to try and come up now with a system and modalities on how we are going to de-radicalize our young ones?
That's a very legitimate question, because the onus has fallen on us. Our religion has been misused, and we have the responsibility to come up and tell Kenyans what we think is supposed to be done, and not only talk, because it's no time for talking. And that's why Dr. Mustafa has told you about Brave. That is an initiative by the Muslims themselves. A few Muslim professionals have come together, and now they have the support of the mainstream Muslim organizations. And talking about the government's approach, I want to commend the government for realizing, although a little bit too late, but it's never too late to do something good, that the iron fist cannot work. We are talking about an ideology. You cannot fight an ideology using the military. I'm glad in the programs that they're having, even for the returnees and the amnesty, they are involving us. We are involved. I personally am involved in that, going to talk to these people, listening to them. And what we are saying is this: the government should look at the root causes. What is this that is driving our youth to radicalization? What is driving them to this mad rush and mad behavior of killing innocent people, and also losing self-esteem and even value for their own lives? And I'm glad now the government has realized there are some things that we can do as the religious leaders, particularly when it comes to the pull factors, because the religion here has been used as the main pull factor. The narratives that are being given by those who hold these ideologies need to be countered, and they can only be countered by people who are equally knowledgeable, and because these people will come with a verse from the Quran. Dibal, as a journalist, you don't have the moral authority to counter that. I have the moral authority, because I will quote from the same Quran and counter their narrative. But the government also has a very big responsibility, because if you look at some of the drivers, the push factors, they fall squarely on the government. Talk about corruption. We've just had a lawyer here, we saw a lawyer here who said he felt that we have the blood, all of us have the blood of the children who were killed in Garissa in our hands because of corruption. They said clearly that why the terrorists were able to gain access, not only in Garissa, in many of the places, is because of corruption. That is in the hands of the government to fight corruption. Bad governance. People have historical injustices. If you look at MRC, and it is very wrong to heap MRC together with Al-Shabaab and Al-Qaeda and other groups. We know what claims they've been having. Can the government sit down with MRC, who are multi-religious? By the way, they are not only Muslims. These are people whose main driving point is land and historical injustices in Coast Province.
Right. Allow me just to take a caller who's hanging on the line. We have Haji hanging on the line. Good morning, Haji. Good morning. Good morning, Audrey. I'm sorry, from Eldred. Audrey. Hello.
Mimi nataka kuuliza swali na mnaongea nini hiyo? Hello.
Hello. Yes.
Hello.
Yeah. Audrey, can you hear us?
Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you. Endelea na swali.
Hello.
Hello, good morning.
Hello.
Yes, I think we are having a problem with that particular caller. We'll get back to you, Audrey, in a short while. All right.
But talking about MRC, I see there are MRC rebrands and plans attacks in Coast Region.
Yes.
That's a report by NIS. You know, MRC is a multi-religious group, and to be specific, MRC is about 55% Muslim, is about 30% is about 30% Christian, and then about 16% indigenous religions. So when we are describing the factors, the grievances that MRC have are actually different from the kind of grievances that Al-Shabaab have. But when it comes to violence, violence is violence. It's the same.
It's the same.
Yeah, it's the same. So we have to deal with that violence.
All right. Then try and make us some of the verses that we have in the Quran to just make them clear. Because I went and sought to actually look at the Quran and also try and see some of these verses that they've taken and they're running with them. First of all, we have very fine minds in our country and all over the world that have been taken hostage maybe by these Islamist groups, right? We know of Muhammad Mwazi, who was actually perpetrating or beheading some of their captors. Yeah, very seasoned, very intelligent young man from one of the finest universities from UK. We know of what happened in Garissa. Yeah, a law graduate, son of a chief in this country. We don't talk about some of the push factors being, poverty anymore. We don't talk some of the push factors being, marginalization. Could that be the problem? No. But they're picking some verses from the Quran, and we have like Quran 3:151, which says that soon shall we cast terror in the hearts of the unbelievers, right? For that they joined companions with Allah, for which he had sent no authority. And commentators are saying this speaks directly to polytheists, yet it also includes Christians, since they believe in the Trinity. That is what Muhammad, they say incorrectly, believe to be joining companions to Allah. There's some of these contentious issues that are arising from here. And of course, we know they've been fighting polytheism. They've gone to Iraq, they're pulling down monuments that they believe these are gods to idolatry and all that.
That's right.
Can we try and make
before Sheikh talks about that, the two gentlemen that you've quoted there,
right?
Muazi and
Muhammad al-Muazi,
Muhammad al-Muazi, and the Kuwaiti, isn't he?
Yes.
I just want to give a background of these two people.
Can we have that background before? Yes, let's just take another caller who's hanging on the line. We have Hassan and hear what he has to say. Good morning, Hassan.
Hello, morning. How are you? I'm from Israel.
Hussein, yes, morning to you.
Assalamu alaikum, brother Lethome and brother Dr. Mustafa.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I think you have said the right thing, that those people, that first we condemn terrorists, and also they are mujrimin. They are not mujahideen. They are mujrimin. Ndugu yangu Lethome anasema ya kuwa serikali haijachukua hatua vile inatakikana. Kwanza hapa Isiolo tunaonekana anti-terrorist unit wako kuharas watu wetu Waislamu. And I don't know, serikali imekuwa narrow down hii kitu kwa Waislamu peke yao. And 2 days ago kuna mtu wa tabligh, na unajua tabligh ni watu ambaye wanakwenda kuhubiri kutoa watu kutoka kwa mabaa. Hao hapana watu ambaye wanafanya kazi ya radicalization. Wanapeleka huyu mzee kotini na wanataka 10 days to investigate. Huyu mzee alikuwa ako siku 10 yake ya Ramadhan ya itikaf, ako police station sahihi, mahakama imekubali siku 10 hao wa investigate yeye. So mimi naona hapa kuna shida kabisa. Serikali ina target Waislamu wote, lakini Mwenyezi Mungu atatusaidia. Sisi tunakondem hawa terrorist, hawa ni mujrimin, lakini ile mpangilio serikali iko naye, nafikiri ambaye wanatuma agencies yao ya kuinvestigate wanakosea sana. Hawapitii wazee ili wazee wa advise hawa, kwa ajili sisi ndio tunawajua hawa vijana wengine, watu wa tabligh, especially watu wa tabligh ambaye tunawajua hawa ni watu ambaye kazi zao ni tofauti. So nataka serikali ibadilishe mawazo yao, and ikitaka sisi tufanye kazi na hawa, sio mpangilio hii mpangilio ni mpangilio mbaya sana. Sisi wengine sasa tumeudhika, tunakaa nyumba zetu, tunafikiria tufanye namna gani, lakini we condemn terrorism these people are mujrimeen, these people are not Muslim. Thank you very much.
Thank you, saying there from Isiolo. And of course, we'll want to also try and also make it very clear that the perception that has been there that the government is clamping down on Islam, what would be then the wisest of fashion to actually deal with this and not actually putting Islam in a bad light, right? But yeah, before we moved on to Hussein,
you quoted two people who have committed horrendous acts of terrorism.
Yes.
In Iraq, in Syria, and here in Kenya. Now, if you look at the profile of Muaz, the Kuwaiti, who was raised in England,
yes.
This is a man intelligent, well-educated, educated in the secular sense. He had no religious background or education. This guy was high and was drunk most of the time. This guy was arrested in Dar es Salaam down here, was deported. In fact, the Dar es Salaam, the Tanzania authorities had to put him overnight, had to detain him overnight as soon as he landed on a plane. He was going to, I don't know what he was going to do in Tanzania, to allow him time to detox, because they couldn't even interview him. He was drunk. And he apparently ran into against the law in various places, including in the United Kingdom. And that, according to some analysts, he did so much wrong. He's a criminal. And the fact that he was being followed and all that, he felt that his world was collapsing around him. He was prevented from going to marry in Kuwait because they feared that this guy, if he leaves the United Kingdom, is going to engage in terrorist activities. So he really felt that this was the end of him. He somehow found his way and got into Iraq and started decapitating people. This guy was getting back at the community. He was getting back at the community. Wrongly, because the community has to be kept safe. This guy had to be kept somewhere so that he does not commit terrorist acts. But somehow he slipped away. He had no knowledge whatsoever in Islam.
Right, but how do we then, make the case for actually, for or against, for the actually the terrorist...
Dibal, no, I agree with you, and this is a legitimate concern. If you as Dibal today commit horrendous crimes as a Christian, it would be very wrong to say that, and you can quote verses from the Bible, isn't it? It would be very wrong to start saying today that Dibal, the Christian terrorist, sorry, I'm just using you as an example. Let me use a more apt example, Joseph Kony in Tanzania. This guy is fighting, was fighting when he was claiming to use, to return the to have the 10 Commandments as the constitution, or what really is guiding Uganda in terms of governance. And he's killed many people. We don't call him a Christian terrorist. We just call him, in Arabic, mujrimin. We call him a terrorist. Ule ni mhalifu in Kiswahili. We can never call him a terrorist. So when we call people like Muaz, Abdul Rahim, who killed so many people in Garissa as jihadists, we are legitimizing their actions. We are turning martyrs into murderers. And I think we need to stop this. And we have to put this in the right perspective. Who are these people?
Right, who are these people? But if we take a case in point also of, I can't remember his name, but the one who actually was now taking the Ethiopians captives who are actually in Libya and taking them to the beach, to behead them. We had one group in orange and another one in black, and they have all this military fatigue. The question is, this particular person who was there, and he was speaking to the camera and telling the whole world about the true religion. Him himself is actually a very seasoned Muslim scholar with the masters in Sharia law. This is where we tend to, if we have scholars who actually pop it, it confuses everyone. So how do we also draw that demarcation line? That you have these quacks, so to speak, that, because as you mentioned, he has good faith or goodwill with the people, it's been known, then this one gives him also the high ranks within the Islamic community. How do we draw that particular line?
I can see the concern you have, and I believe many of the non-Muslims out there, these are the concerns they have. Here are people who are, I won't call them quacks, they could be very well educated, they could even be having PhD in that field. But what I want to believe, a human being can decide what to be regardless of the kind of training and background they have. Maybe we should go a little bit back and try to investigate what drives this person who is so knowledgeable in religion, because for me, it is not religion. Why am I saying it is not religion? Because let me tell you, since I started witnessing these things, and Dr. Mustafa is a witness, I've started interrogating myself. Are there books they've read that I've not read? Because what I'm reading here tells me this, Dipal, together with the verse that you're reading here. And I'm glad many non-Muslims now are reading the Quran and they're getting these verses, but I want to urge them to do this, and I want to urge you to do this. For every verse that is revealed in the Quran, there is something we call sababun nuzul, the reason and the circumstances under which it was revealed. Now, talking about a verse of the Quran telling people to go and kill others there, I want you to go and read chapter 110 of the Quran, which says this. It tells the Prophet about people who have disbelieved in God. They don't believe in any God. It tells them, Lakum dinukum waliyadin. You have your religion and I have mine. Meaning what? Islam tells us we are evangelical, just like the Christians. We want to win as many people as possible. But can we force them? No. The Quran tells us, La ikraha fid din. You cannot compel. Then I'm supposed just to convey the message to you. If you don't want to take the message, the Quran tells me, tell him, Lakum dinukum waliyadin. How can the same religion now turn and tell you, because the verse is there, but read out of context? That's what I want to say. Talking about beheading people, you know, when I look at it, and I look at the religion that is being misused to perpetrate that crime, Dibal, I'm so sad, my heart bleeds. Because this is a religion that tells you, even for you to kill, to slaughter an animal for food, an animal that you have been allowed to slaughter for food, you must show compassion to that chicken, that goat, that cow. How can the same religion tell you to kill an innocent people by slaughtering? This is a religion that tells you, don't punish an animal. How can it tell you to torment a human being? And let me tell you, for those who know religion, even the way they are doing it, even if it was in an Islamic state, and a person has been found guilty for murder, because in Islam, it's a life for a life. Once it has been proven beyond reasonable doubt, beyond any doubt that you have committed murder, then your life is taken away. Is it taken away through slaughtering? No. Through, again, even when it is a punishment, as a punishment, there has to be compassion. I've seen cases of a woman accused of fornicating being shot with a pistol on the head in the streets. If that's how it's supposed to be done. So purely, I just want to say this, and people should consult genuine Muslim scholars, not Muslim scholars who have the knowledge, but they are driven by other factors unknown to us. Only God knows what is driving them, who have misused a religion that is supposed to show compassion, not only to human beings, even to insects, and to perpetrate crime against humanity. And it's unfortunate because they are tainting a religion that is supposed to be so peaceful.
Right. We're winding up right now. So, Dr. I just want you to give us a headline thoughts. What do you think, especially where I mentioned, we had Hussein really calling and asking, why is the government now actually trying to throw the Muslim community in the bad light when it comes down to looking out for terror sleeper cells?
Thanks. I don't think the government is trying to cast the Muslims in bad light. I think there's a misunderstanding here between who is a terrorist, who is a bad guy, and I think the government and security agencies need to put their thumb on who is the bad guy here, and needs to be very targeted. And if the government is going to be very targeted, then they will find the right people. Some of them will be Muslims, will be going by Muslim names or Islamic names, but those are mujrimeen. Get them out of the community and let them go through the due process. But when you just cast a blanket or use a blanket approach, then that's where you'll find the innocent, the guilty, and then it kind of unqualifies the whole process, and then it interrupts the move to get the criminals, the terrorists, in a targeted, quick, and in a manner that is going to make sure that the community is rid of the terrorists.
Thank you. I really do appreciate it. I think we can talk hours on end on this.
So today you've been talking to two jihadists.
Yeah, to the jihadis, and it's good that now you've actually clarified on
Yes.
the whole issue of jihadism, because
That's
some viewers may take it, oh, these are jihadists, we should avoid them, but at least you've clarified it's for a good cause, right? Unlike the way it has been perpetrated by the Islamic the terrorist sleeper cells. Thank you very much. I really appreciate your insight.
Thank you, Liba.
Right. You've been watching Standing on Guard. Of course, today we've been talking about the holy month of Ramadan and trying to make it clear that, of course, some of the terror sleeper cells that we have within our country, they're not doing it out of a very good motive that is driven or taught by the Quran. But right now we want to also look at Matters Academia. London Curve is up next.